Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Hey,
Hello?
hey.
Hey guys. Sorry about that. We're having a few technical difficulties, but we are here. Dwayne, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Can you hear me still?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
So with that, I know we took a few minutes to get started. So I think everybody's in. Looks like we have a few attendees as well. So we wanted to get started. Dwayne, if you could you pull up the slide deck?
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Well, I had it open and it decided it would close. Opening it back up right now.
No worries. And guys, we're gonna keep this interactive. So I know Rubrik is new to a lot of people. It has been a technology that has a lot of buzz right now. So you've probably heard our name. So today's session, we're going to go over a use case. Every single Wednesday, we go over Rubrik in a different use case. Today's going to be Rubrik for the cloud. And we're going to show you a little bit about who we are, what we do, how we do it, and then a few just customer examples and show you the software. That's what people want to see. So just a little bit about me, and you can go to the next slide, Gwen. A little bit about me. I know a few of you probably know me from my past life at EMC. So I've been in Houston about 10 years, moved here in 2010, went to school at Texas San Antonio, worked for a company called Paychex for about 2 to 3 years in San Antonio and Houston. After that, I went to EMC, which a lot of you know me from. Had a great time, great company, set me up for where we are today. Over the last few years, once the EMC and Dell merger happened, things were kind of changing. There was a lot of uncertainty. They weren't putting enough as much in R&D, so I ended up going to Infor, which is a ERP software, and it was SAP, Oracle, and us. I managed the Western U.S. there for the last 2.5 years. Right now, just came back, excited to be in Houston, so we're making a lot of noise in the market. A gift and a curse has been that Houston was one of the last cities to be really developed by Rubrik, so we're hiring here. We are investing a lot of time and resources and making some huge investments in Houston. So we appreciate you jumping on. I'm going to turn it over to our SE, who's actually the founding SE in Houston, that's going to do the rest of the presentation, and he's going to introduce himself, a little bit about his background. We'll show you a little bit about the different cloud providers that we're able to integrate with. Before we go into that, Dwayne, can you hit the next slide?
Yep. Oops, that was one too many.
So our sponsor, and we have a sponsor every single week, are one of our ecosystem partners. So Pure is the sponsor for this webinar. I know a lot of you are excited to go to our deep sea fishing trip, and Pure is going to, by sponsoring this webinar, one of you is going to, lucky guest is going to get a Amazon Echo on the boat. So we appreciate you joining, and thank you, Pure, for being our sponsor. Dwayne, it is all yours, my man.
Thank you, sir. So again, like Alan said, this is very interactive. So if you guys have questions or anything, just unmute and ask away. Like he said, I'm the local SE. I'm the original Houston SE for Pure looking at my screen. For Rubrik, I came from Dell for 6 years, and I was an IT director for 16 years prior to that. So if you guys have questions or want to see something specific, let me know. Otherwise, I will continue through this, do a short presentation, and then a brief demo of some of our cloud features. So high-level overview for those of you that have not seen this or do not know what we do. And so we are data management, data protection. So since the early 90s up until now, nothing has changed. You have a traditional backup data protection infrastructure that consists of backup software sitting on servers. You may have proxies out there, just depending on what technology you're using for your current data protection. Replication, and the single point of commonality and a common failure amongst all of those is the catalog database and the indexing piece. That's common on every data protection vendor out there. Then you have tape sending your data to tape, as well as a potential offsite archive such as an Iron Mountain. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and the only change that has been introduced since the early 90s has been disk-based backup and dedupe, think data domain type infrastructure. Other than that, nothing has changed. You've got your traditional stack that sits like this, and what we're trying to do is consolidate that all down into a 2U appliance that is scale out, not up. So again, scale out, not up. And you can scale that privately or publicly in the cloud. And the beauty in that is you get no forklift upgrades, and you can write your data to multiple locations and have a single pane of glass to manage that. So how does it work? So you look on the left and you see some of the application aware pieces that we support. And so we can do a dump and scrape of anything, but if you look here, we are actually aware of the content of the items on the left. So SQL Server, VMware, Acropolis, Hyper-V, and then physical Linux, Windows, and NAS. So from a quick start perspective, we're rack and go with auto discovery. So there's no agent, no client to load for virtualization. We do all of our discovery through API calls to vCenter or Acropolis or Hyper-V. So it's very simple and very quick. Automation. So we do not do scheduling. We have a concept of what we call SLAs. So no more doing daily differentials and then starting a full on Friday and hope it's finished by Monday when everyone comes to work. So we do what we call an SLA. We say, you tell us how often you want to protect a resource, how long you want to keep it, where you want to keep it, and we figure out the best time to do it during those time frames that you've given us. And that includes archiving, replication, as well as daily or hourly snapshots. From an ingestion standpoint, everything is parallel ingest. We do everything to flash drives, and it's all under a single namespace. So no matter where your data lives, whether it be on the local Rubrik, whether it be on an archive target such as a NAS sitting in your local data center, or if it's going to a public cloud provider or an object-based storage, it is still under one namespace, one search window, and one single pane of glass. Instant recovery. So this is kind of where we shine and set ourselves apart from anyone else, and that is in our ability to do live mounts. And so what that is we give you the ability to live mount a virtual machine, whether that be VMware or Hyper-V, on our appliance, and we point it to your hypervisor manager, such as vCenter or Hyper-V manager for Windows, as well as SQL. So you can spin up a SQL database on us, and we will it'll point to your SQL Server Enterprise Manager, and you can do test dev or actually run production off of us. And then same thing for file level restores. So you can do a search globally for a file name and do an instant recovery all from a single pane of glass. Security, everything is encrypted end to end. That's at flight and at rest, or in flight and at rest. And then the unique piece of that is our immutability. And so once a snapshot takes place, it is read only forever. So propagation of ransomware cannot spread through us. And so that's one of the key issues with a Windows-based platform or your traditional big box theory is that viruses or ransomware can propagate themselves to your backups. And so we help eliminate that. And then cloud, that's the point of today's webinar. So we have two pieces to cloud. We have cloud out, which is simply archive. So think long-term retention. Key example is tape replacement. Most people do not have a huge love for tape, and so we're helping get rid of that with cloud out. So you can do long-term retention to Amazon, to an S3 bucket or Glacier, to Google Cloud Services or Microsoft Azure, as well as any object-based type storage.
Now, guys, any questions up to this point? You can raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have any questions at any time. We definitely want to keep it interactive.
Absolutely. That was the last point on this slide, and I typically pause at the end of that and see if there's any questions. So with that said, I'll go ahead and pause for a few seconds, see if anybody has anything. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you do. All right, so I will take that.
Back to the job, huh? Go ahead, Dwayne.
All right, cool. So again, in summary of the three slides we just covered, your traditional backup infrastructure looks like this. Our goal is to eliminate the pieces that you see with X's through them, consolidate it down into a scale out to you cloud-enabled, cloud advocate appliance. And so what exactly does that mean, or what does it look like from a cloud perspective? And so if you take this and you think of a traditional production DR scenario, we can add a piece to that mix. And so you look on the left side, you see a traditional production infrastructure. You've got your servers, you've got a SAN, and then you have a Rubrik appliance sitting there. You move east or west and you go over to your DR side, to a secondary colo perhaps, and you have your traditional DR servers, very possibly an exact match of what you have in production, and you put a Rubrik appliance there. And so now you can do cross-replication if you want to, or you can just do one-way replication. And now you can take and add the cloud piece in there. So you can not only replicate to another data center for DR purposes, you can also replicate or archive to a cloud target. And that will give you the option to recover from long-term retention in the cloud or power on workloads in the cloud. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. And so change your thought process and your theory from a traditional DR scenario and think cloud DR. And so where we set ourselves apart and become unique is you have your traditional production servers sitting in your data center, you have a SAN, and you have a Rubrik. And that's your entire infrastructure from a data perspective. Now you can potentially eliminate that secondary data center that has the replicated hardware as well as replicated data, and you put an Azure blob storage with Microsoft Compute, or you do Amazon S3 buckets with an EC2 compute, and now you have a DR site in the cloud. And so you replicate, you do long-term retention to the cloud of your choice, and you use us to power on and instantiate those workloads. So again, going data center to cloud, you take and break it down. You have on-prem, you have your local applications and data, just as you do today. And now you add these to it. And so you take, you can look at it as apps that are born in the cloud. So if you are running SQL in Azure, we natively can protect that or power that workload on in Microsoft Compute instances. Or if you look at S3, and you can take and archive or replicate to an S3 bucket, and you can power that on in an EC2 instance. All of that from a single pane of glass and from our interface. And then you have Google Cloud Platform sitting in the middle. So we cannot power workloads on there, but we do archive long-term retention to the cloud, or to Google Cloud services. And then not only that, but you also get cross-platform compatibility. So we can convert from, so let's say, a VMDK sitting local to an AMI file for Amazon, or to VHD Microsoft Compute files in Azure. All of that through us, and all of that seamlessly, it's happening behind the scenes. And there's a couple ways you can do it. You can pre-convert your critical workloads so that the obviously converting from anything to an AMI or to a VHD takes time. And so that pre-conversion gives you that instant on ability in the cloud. So you do a snapshot, we pre-convert it, you have a failure or a disaster, it's already converted and you can power it on. And realistically, call it 10 minutes just to be safe. And so that covers that part of it. I'll show you guys a demo of that here in just a second. But as Alan mentioned earlier, Pure is sponsoring this, and I'm not mentioning this just because they're sponsors, but it's a huge part of our platform as well. So we natively integrate with Pure, and we do that for speed and resiliency. And so instead of having to do everything across the network, if you have Pure storage, we will do on the SAN snapshots. And so instead of causing network traffic, which leads to VMware stuns and things like that, we do it all on the flash array or on the Pure array, which minimizes any VM stun. And so we do all that natively with through API calls, no plugins or anything like that. So the key value and the goal in that is minimize the impact to production and continue to give you hourly or even less protection of your data. So you take that and we give you policy automation, archive automation, and everything else directly from Pure. So in summary, what we are providing is backup and recovery. That's the bare basics of what we do. Disaster recovery, archival and compliance. So the future of Rubrik, we see all of your data that goes through us. So we are going to offer archiving and compliance as well. Copy data management, search global, single global namespace. So no matter where your data lives, you get the ability to search it from a single pane of glass. And then data analytics. The future of Rubrik, we'll call it Rubrik 2.0, is very analytical data, or providing analytical data about what we're seeing coming through us. So in summary, I'll stop before I go into the demo and see if anyone has any questions or want to see anything more. Go ahead and unmute and ask away.
Nope, go ahead, Dwayne.
All right, so let me bring up my remote desktop session here so you guys can see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Okay, so, whoops. So as I said, we have two parts to our cloud piece. It's simply archive or the ability to instantiate or spin up workloads. So I'm not going to go through the traditional demo or interface here. If anyone does want to see that, please let myself and Alan know, and we can certainly schedule some time to do that. I'm going to skip over all of that part, and I'm going to show you more of the archiving piece and the live mount piece. So, as many of you may know or may not, we do SLAs. Like I said, we do not do scheduling. And so, if I go into one of our SLAs that has cloud set up on it, I'll show you what that looks like and how we're doing it on our demo / loud environment. And so, when you go into an SLA, you can figure everything about it through this one screen here. So what we're doing on this SLA is we're doing snapshots every 6 hours, keeping them for 3 days, a daily for 30, a monthly for a year, and a yearly for 2. And then from an archive perspective, If you go to the archive piece, we're keeping 31 days on the Rubrik, and then we're archiving to AWS to an S3 bucket in Northern California. It's that simple. And so every resource, every VM or every database or whatever it may be that is being protected by this particular SLA will follow this pattern and will be archived to AWS on day 31. All right, and so if you go down to a VM level, as I said earlier, you can do what we consider a pre-conversion, and that is done on a per VM level. So you may not want to convert all 500 of your VMs. You may only want to convert 3 or 4. So we do not force that at the SLA level. It is at the VM level. And so you pre-convert right here. And so it's simply you turn on cloud conversion or not. And so you go into configure. So this particular VM, cloud conversion is turned on. So that means the most recent snapshot that is taken, which in this case I believe was every 3 hours. So every 3 hours we'll do a snapshot and we will convert that to an AMI. So that's already done. So what that looks like, if you go to live mounts, not live mounts, cloud mounts, you go to AWS, you'll see two choices across the top. You'll see instances and you'll see AMIs. So instances are running EC2 versions of a snapshot, and AMIs are VMDKs that have been converted but not powered on. Okay, and so our concern is around instances. And so a little bit earlier at 7 o'clock this morning, which was actually 9 o'clock our time, this is in California, I went ahead and did a conversion, and you can see here it tells you exactly who did it. It gives you the name of it as well as the instance ID for Amazon. So if I go over here to my EC2 or to my AWS dashboard, and I'll go back to the main screen here. So you log into your AWS account and you get your dashboard. You go to EC2 and you go to instances. So I've got 13 instances running. And if I look here, all I need really are the last 4. So the instance ID is 4809. Go back over here. I find 4809, which is right here, and it shows that it's up and running. So this is a fully functional, up and running Linux VM running in EC2. And again, that was all done. I'll show you how I did it. So I went to AMIs. And the reason I pre-converted it is because sometimes it can take like 15 minutes for Amazon for it to show up, and I didn't want to waste you guys' time sitting and twiddling our thumbs. I will show you the process. So let's say this one right here, you had a failure. It's already been converted to an AMI. It just needs powered on. You go here to the ellipse, launch AMI. And it tells you right here, image exists. That means it's already been pre-converted. If it had not been pre-converted, it would not say image exists. So instance type, I'm just going to do an M4 large. Subnet, I will choose this one. And then security group, I will just choose the default. And again, all this is pre-configured on your Amazon bucket or your EC2 network piece. And I'll hit submit, and it's done. It's going through, and it will launch. And so again, that process may take 10 to 15 minutes, but it will show up in here, and it may show that it's converting. No, it hasn't showed up yet. I'll come back to that in a second, but from an archive piece, let me show you what it looks like. Actually, let me go back to my SLA, go to local, gold. So you go here and then go to the VM that you want to do a recovery from. So I'll go here. Let's see. And then when you look on the right-hand side, you'll notice all the blue dots. And even if you expand back to a year, you just get a yearly view. Everywhere there's blue means it's 100% successful in compliance through and out, through and through. So there's no failures this year so far. So if you go to a date, well, actually, let me go back to last month. So, that was it. I'm trying to find one that's been completely archived off, and we may not have. Let's see if I go back.
And Dwayne, we have about 5 more minutes.
All right. All right, so they've cleaned it up, and I can't show you, but anything that has a long-term retention on it, next to the ellipse will have a little cloud, and so that is the only sign that your data is no longer local. Your recovery process, how you get it back, your choices are all exactly the same. It just has a little cloud icon by it, which means it's been archived. And that is it. Let me see if it'll show up in here now so you can see the process happening. And no, it's not there yet. So again, it can take about 10 to 15 minutes. So anyway, so that's the 30,000 foot view. Like Alan said, we've got a few more minutes here. We'll leave these last few minutes for a summary from Alan and any questions. And again, if you guys want to see something more in depth and watch the actual process, we can always come on site and spend as much time as necessary to show you. Or if you want to see an Azure example instead of AWS, we're happy to do that as well. And that's it. Alan, back to you.
Excellent. We appreciate it. And like Dwayne said, we can cater everything. We try to break it up so there's small sessions. If there's a use case that piques your interest, you can attend our webinars. And of course, you want to get your tickets to the deep sea fishing trips. So everybody that is on will get your 2 tickets to our deep sea fishing trip at the end of the month. So it'll be 9 to 3. We'll get there probably about 8:30. You didn't need a fishing license beforehand, but you'll get all that information as well. We look forward to working with each and every one of you. We have over 38 different use cases that we can show and do a custom demo for you. We have a very simple 3-step process. It's a lot easier than when I worked at other large companies. We can come in, basically get what you'd like to see beforehand in a quick phone call, show you an overview of that and a demo, get some information for a total cost of ownership. That way we can build out a TCO and you'll have a financial justification summary, and then we can build it out and have an executive meeting. We have sold a tremendous amount of Rubrik. Rubrik has only been selling for 9 quarters. And already, we have over $100 million in run rate, $300 million in revenue. And we're talking in 9 quarters. So we're one of the fastest, hottest growing technologies on the earth right now, especially in Houston. So thank you for your time. Want to respect each and every one of your times. And we're glad that you jumped on. If you have any other questions, I will leave the chat open. If not, we will sign off. I will follow up. You'll all get an email from Kyla with your tickets. And if you have any other questions, she will set up
Oh, it looks like Alan went through a dead spot. So as he was saying, please reach out if anyone has any questions. And thank you guys for attending.